Climate
change.
Climate change.
Climate change.
Climate change.
Climate change. Climate change has happened throughout Earth's history. A lot of the time that's due to planetary cycles, volcanoes, other sorts of things that we're just beginning to understand. The climate change that people are talking about now, or anthropogenic climate change, this is human influenced.
Climate change, it's going up in the United States. More people are saying climate's changing. But when you start asking, do humans cause it? Then you get an ideological change. You can't solve it on an individual basis. If you start recycling, you have no effect on climate change by yourself. Only the collective action of all people can change the global pattern.
Right, climate change is a global commons problem, and so it requires each state, each nation state, to come together and work together to address what we consider to be a global threat.
To really understand climate change in particular, you need all of these different perspectives and these different views, because climate change doesn't stop at the edge of some predefined area. Climate change kind of permeates everything.
The key now is interdisciplinary thinking. It's not purely environmental problems now. It's environment and the economics and the social issues start to intermix. But communications is central. It has to come out of the laboratory and to the breakfast table.
But you could ask yourself, which made the bigger difference? Al Gore's movie or Michael Jackson's Earth Song? Which one has had the bigger impact? They're both arguing the same point from very, very different viewpoints.
So there are multiple angles from which students can come to talk about climate change or to raise the importance of the issue. Clubs or groups that raise the saliency of climate change, whether they're looking at it from a social justice perspective or renewable energies.
You can't just say, get rid of all fossil fuels. You can't do that right away. Maybe down the line, but you have to think on a long-term view. You have to think about, how do we balance the needs of marginalized communities with the needs of the world as a whole in context of fossil fuels? How do we deal with our use of plastics? Those come from fossil fuels. So you might be out in your hammock out on Sanford Mall talking about getting rid of fossil fuels, but you're in a nylon hammock, which comes from fossil fuels, essentially.
The third or fourth leading cause of death in the world, globally, is air pollution. So if you spend X amount of dollars to clean the air up, but 100 million people are suddenly more healthy, just think how many dollars can be put back into the economy when 100 million people are working, as opposed to if they're dying prematurely, or they're sick with asthma, or they get a heart attack because they were elderly and they breathed in the air pollution that caused stress and they died.
The question is often asked is, what can I do personally? And the challenge with climate change is it's not easy. I think if there was an easy solution, you push a button and it's all taken care of, most of us aren't stupid. We'd do that. Climate change is much more complex than that. And the causes of climate change are so embedded in our lifestyles that significant changes, if we're really going to address it, are required.
I think recognizing that these are all around us, that plastics, fossil fuels, all of these things are what make life better for a lot of people. And getting rid of that all at once is going to be very painful.
But the idea here is that as consumers, we make choices, and those choices feed into the economy that is based on fossil fuels. And so there is a dual role here for students as part of a group, as part of an organized effort on campus, but also as an individual consumer. And through the choices that they make, they could shift, right, us towards an economy that is based less on consumerism and less on the use of fossil fuels. And I recognize that that's a lot to ask, but it starts with small steps.